Do you also brand or mark your shoes?
I do.
Mhm.
Let's see. Trying to think if I have anything I could show you. I started out doing this really, I sew it, cowboy boots inside the back panel. There's a
Mhm.
reinforcement on the outside of the top leather because
Mhm.
lining leather, it doesn't have a finish. You
Right.
want it to be an open finish so when you sweat, it will absorb your sweat. You don't want something
Right.
shiny that just sits in there and gets wet. But on
Okay.
the other hand, with a cowboy boot, because of that fit, that's difficult to pull on, you want your heel to slide. So on the inside, there's a little piece that is shiny leather,
Okay.
and it's called a heel slide. And that way
Oh,
your heel will hit that and slide down into your
slide
boots.
down. Is
Yeah.
that connected? Is that connected to a counter? Heel counter inside?
No, it's just
No,
on the boot
separate.
top. So it would be shaped like this in here.
Oh,
If you look down in
interesting.
the boot, you can see it.
Uh-huh.
And it's sewn to the lining. So in that heel slide, I
Mm-hmm.
started out doing a really complex thing with a little face and the word Sorel, and then I got tired
Mm.
of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved to stitching Lisa Sorel, and then I got tired of doing that. So now I'm down to just an L and an S. But
Uh-huh.
that's stitched in there.
Oh,
I
okay. So
also,
inside. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I sign my boots and date them, but I stitch that in. So there is no way that someone's going to be able to remove traces of who
Right.
made my boots.
Right. And it would someone just know by just looking at your shoes? I mean, I think all can agree that we can tell by your boot top designs and the decorative, the
Right.
stitches. But say, for example, in like say 100 years, 200 years, if somebody is like, oh, these boots, oh, can they tell by looking at one spot that it's yours, or do you put it in different locations or
No, I
other
just put it inside of the
inside?
back panel, but
Okay.
someone who studies me would know. And then someone who just studies boot making might get me confused with Jay Griffith or Blucher boots because you can definitely, if you have a good eye, you can see lineage. You can
Mm-hmm.
tell um, how a bootmaker evolved and who their influences are. And
Right.
so it just depends on how good their eye is as to whether or not they think Blucher boots or Jay Griffith or Lisa Sorel. You can see that line.
See that? Oh, that's great. I mean, I just wanted to ask because I think some shoemakers use like a stamp, like a branding stamp on the bottom of the
Right.
sole. Yeah, but it seems
But
like,
that can be worn away or they can be resold. And
yeah,
this is something that well, there you can kind of see it. That's the
yeah.
heel slide,
Wow.
that colored piece, and I've got
Uh-huh.
stitching on it. And so that's just something that is part of the boot. It's you can't get rid of it without destroying the
That's
entire boot.
right. Right. I'm learning new things. It's amazing. It's fantastic. One day I'm gonna learn cowboy boot making as well.
Okay.
Um, and do you have a, well, I kind of asked this to everybody but that I've been interviewing, like, do you have a signature stitch? But again, it's kind of obvious. But then sometimes with your, say, the creation that you're doing right now, the project with what do you call the cowboy and the Native Amer Indian, um, because it was a
Hi, Valerie.
collaboration. Do you feel like your stitching and like your signature would kind of be visible in something that's, for example, if
That's
it's
an
like,
that's
you
an
know,
excellent question because that one is the design is all the customer, and if I myself am visible in that boot, it's only going to be in how well it's executed or the style in which it's executed because
hmm
I didn't design that one.
right,
And that's another thing. I like commissioned boots, but I had reached the point where I was tired of only commissioned boots. I
right,
started wanting to make what I wanted to make.
yeah.
And
When
that's
did
another
you
reason.
start incorporating that? Sorry, I didn't want to. interrupt you, but how did you find that balance? Like when in your process of 30 years?
You know, I'm not sure. I don't know if there is a balance, because as long as I'm working for clients, they're going to want me to make what they want, which is
Right.
perfectly reasonable. But it's only been in the last few years that I said, hey, I want to make what I want sometimes too. And so I'm just now trying to find that balance, or trying to find customers who let me make what I want. I don't know.
Yeah. Or I wonder if that's something that you do talk to them about, like, this is what I'm imagining. And do they usually say, that sounds great? Or I guess when they come, they have something specific that they want. Yeah, I don't
Most of
know.
them, most of them know what they want. Most of
Uh-huh.
them are also willing to listen to my advice, because like with this guy, the cowboy and Indian boots, we talked yesterday, and he had something in mind that I would have done. It was okay, but I felt like this would look better, and he was willing to listen to that. And I actually enjoy that sort of discussion and compromise. And I've learned from customers. There have been times they've said, no, I don't like your idea, I want you to do mine. And when I finished, I learned, because
Mm,
something happened that I wouldn't have thought of, but it turned out great. And then I learned from the process.
mm. Okay.
So I learned from customers as much as they learn from me.
Right. Right. I think I asked a lot of the questions that I wanted to ask, but
Uh-huh.
what do you, speaking of future, you did kind of touch up on it, but if you had other than this program, if you had all the time and resources available, what would you want to do next? Anything, including your shoes or anything else in your life?
I would want a bigger building, and I would want
Hmm.
to be able to start a school, a real school where people come for extended amounts of time.
Mm.
But I don't know if that will happen. That would take a bunch of money. So
Well, I hope that you can do it. I think
maybe,
when the vision is there and it's out there, I think it might be possible. It's just right now with Corona, it's a little hard to think too far, but
right.
yeah,
So
we'll put it out there. Hmm. Yep.
Diane has just asked if most customers are owners of many different makers boots. That's an excellent question. I always say that some boot buyers are monogamous and some are
Mm,
not. Because with a customer, when it works well, it is like a relationship. I have to get
right.
to know my client in many ways so that I can make the boots that they want. And so that relationship needs to happen. And some customers, they just want to stay in that relationship and let it go where it leads. And others just want to explore all sorts of relationships. And that's okay too. It
Right.
doesn't bother me if someone comes to me and they intend to go to other bootmakers, or they have lots of other people's boots. I'm not threatened by that or jealous.
Right.
There's lots of good bootmakers out there, believe me.
Right. Right. And
Let's
also
see.
might be collectors as well. Can you explain a bit
Exactly.
about, yeah, how you prepare the cowboy toe puff, please?
That's from my
NPC
friend
bespoke.
Mariano in England.
Oh, great.
Um, so this is a huge debate even within the cowboy bootmaking community, because shoemakers tend to use leather toe puffs or
Yeah.
leather toe boxes,
Yeah.
and cowboy bootmakers have been exploring Celastic and even thermal.
Yeah.
And I'm personally a Celastic person. I know that's embarrassing and I should be ashamed, but I love Celastic. So Mariano, I'm using Celastic, and it works great.
Oh, that's great. Do you also sell that on your shop?
I do. I sell Celastic.
And how
And
is it? Is it heat activated or is it solvent?
no, the Celastic that I sell, so there's thermal, which is heat activated, but Celastic is solvent activated. And when I worked for Jay, the guy that was doing toe boxes for him would just have this margarine tub full of solvent, and he would drop this elastic in and let it soak. And then when it got soft, he would reach into the solvent and pull out this drippy, snotty, toxic mess and put it on the boots. And I do not do that. What I do with solvent-based Celastic toe boxes is I have an old cookie sheet, and I have a cookie cooling rack inside the cookie sheet, and I lay the toe box on that, and then I have a drizzle bottle, like an old dishwashing bottle that has the solvent in it, and I drizzle that over, and then it soaks into the Celastic, and I don't touch the Celastic until it's dry to the touch. Okay. It's still flexible, but it's dry to the touch. Now you can definitely make the argument that I'm picking up a bit of solvent residue simply because it's still moist, but it's not snotty and gross.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's interesting though. I can totally picture how the everything like falls into like where the, not the grate, but like the rack is, and you can still catch it with a tray. Yeah, that's brilliant.
I've got another shoemaker friend on here saying that he uses both Celastic and leather depending on the job. And that makes sense
the job
because
type.
There are certain toe shapes that require a little bit more thickness to shape the toe that you need. And so sometimes you want a different type of material to work with.
Right. And you think that Celastic is more for thicker materials?
No, Celastic's pretty thin. So if you're doing,
so it's the
there are some
way.
types of toe boxes that you can't do completely with Celastic because you just don't have enough material to work with.
Okay.
So do you use old sewing machines exclusively, or do you use any more recent models? That's a good question. For top stitching, I use an old Singer 110W, 124, or 125. I've had both. And I don't know of a current machine that does boot tops as well as either a Singer 110W or a Singer 3115. That means you're going to have to learn how to work on an old machine, have old machines to cannibalize something. Yeah. For a post machine, the post machine that I use is a new one. It's a 5110. You can get it from Leather Machine Co. And in a pinch, you can use it for stitching boot tops as well. It's the only post machine that only post machine that I recommend for cowboy boots. Now, if you're making shoes, I've got a 4618 here, and you can always also get that from Leather Machine Co. And that's good for it's good for shoes because it has a gear-driven roller foot and it'll climb over a seam. But for cowboy boots, that's not the machine you really want. And then the two machines behind, there's not really. Looks like Brooklyn Shoe Space just faded out. There's not really a good option for those machines. The straight needle directly behind me, you can use a Cobra Class 4, but this curve needle, there's not a substitute for that. It's a curve needle or nothing, and I wish I had a better answer, but I don't. And curve needles, they weigh a ton. They're kind of hard to find. They're hard to work on. They're hard to learn. But they're lovely machines and they'll bring you years of happiness. Can you talk about how you, let's see if I can get Brooklyn Shoe Space back. Can you talk about how you developed your last? That's a good question, Steve. One of the last models that I sell now is called the KR3705, and I assume that's the one you're asking about. The KR3705 is a combination last. And what that means, let me grab a last. Ha, got one.
This is so great. So
this is a KR3705 last. And I developed this last from an old Krentler Brothers last, 3705 last model. And what I did is I told the factory, I said, So this one's marked a 4.5A. I said, if it's marked a 4.5A, I want it to be an A in the heel, a B in the instep, and a C in the forepart. This is a combination last. It's three widths in one. And it fits so many people as is. Because that's what, if you're a boot or a shoemaker, you will know that you see this all the time. You see narrow heels with wider foreparts. And with a cowboy boot, fitting that is incredibly important, because since there's no buckles or laces, this measurement right here in the waist is incredibly important. You can squeeze them there without pain. They won't be sliding around inside, but yet you've got room in the ball. It hurts to be squeezed there. And room in the instep because it hurts to be squeezed there. And at the same time, you've got that narrow heel because you do want snug fit going in and that thunk when you get your heel in. And so this is really, in my opinion, a close to perfect cowboy boot last.
That's brilliant. I love that.
Which model of curved needle is my favorite? Ha, ha. Whichever one works that day. I don't pay that much attention. Once I get one going, I mean, like what would be the point of me having a preference? This one's in my shop and it's working great. And so after that, I stopped paying attention. It's a K. My curved needle is a K. But once they work, I'm not going to be moving it out and trying new ones.
That's great. All right. Can you hear me or not really?
Yeah, you're coming in great now.
Oh, okay, good. I think I asked all the questions that I wanted to ask, and it seems like, let's see if anybody else has more questions. And otherwise,
if you ask a question and I didn't get to it because I missed it, type it in again real quick.
Yeah. And then
we've got somebody watching from Iran.
Wow. Neat. That is
I have
neat.
shoemaking friends all over the world.
Yes. Is there like a country you wish to visit when the travel ban is up?
Oh, well, I always want to go to Sweden because that's where my friend Karina lives and works. And I always love to go to England because that's where Tony and Mariano are, and they're my good friends. And then I have friends in Germany. And so it's so hard to think of going to new countries because I want to go back to the countries I know so I can see my friends.
Their friends.
And basically, I'll just go anywhere if they're shoemakers.
Oh, that's great. That's so great. Oh, I mean, thank you so much for being on with me, and thank you for hosting it actually on your site. I think this is brilliant. I might ask all my shoemakers to do it that way, maybe. I think that works.
Yeah, that worked well. Ha!
Yeah.
Let's see, I've got, what's the craziest boot you ever made? That has to be the Satan Israel boots because those were just bizarre but wonderful.
Time and work-wise.
And then my friend Alan wants to know if I prefer gelato or ice cream.
Gelato or ice cream.
That would be a yes. Either one. Do you use ink with a water base? I don't, but I would certainly be up to trying it.
Okay.
Because that's a good, I am definitely interested. I feel the future of this craft is moving more towards water soluble and non-toxic materials, which is an excellent way for it to be moving. And I sell an ink that's water-based, and I just haven't, you know how it is when you have stuff sitting on your bench that's not used up, and so you don't want to try something new until you get it used up. But I sell a water-based dye, and I need to try it because otherwise I can't tell people how great it is.
Oh, yeah. But there are products out there that are more conscious about toxicity. Or
it's important because
absolutely.
I have so many bootmaker friends who have either died of or are living with a condition that their doctor specifically said this was caused by glue fumes. Solvent-based glue is toxic and it's terrible for you, and we need to move it away from it as much as we can. Mariano says that dye with water-based dye is good, and Mariano's a great shoemaker, so if he says it's good, I trust him. I need to switch immediately. And then as far as the glues, I sell a water-based line of water-based glues. I haven't switched completely. I've switched to about 2/3, and it's definitely worthwhile.
Yeah.
But I can feel the
Yeah.
differences in my health. I hadn't realized how
Yeah.
often I was holding my breath until I
Yes.
switched.
Yeah.
Let's
And
see.
also the smell and the taste of the glue actually in your mouth.
Yes.
That happens even with the mask, you know, with like
Uh-huh.
the respirator masks. It still goes through
Uh-huh.
sometimes.
Someone asked if I've ever worked as a cobbler prior to making boots. I have not. I have never done repairs. And I feel that that's a lack in my education, because the hardest thing for me still to this day is the curve needle. And the reason it's hard for me is because I had never stitched on one until I bought my own. Like, the guy who trained me didn't even have a curve needle. We stitched soles on a straight needle, which just don't do it. No, you can't do it. Don't try. So anyway, and then when you're only making 4 to 6 pairs of boots a month, you don't get the practice in that you need to build the muscle memory to where you can just stitch a pair of soles while you're thinking about what you're going to eat for lunch. I've never reached that point because I've never been able to put in that amount of time, and that has been a serious handicap, and I could have overcome it if I had had a background in shoe repair. I have honestly, kid you not, I have thought about just putting the word out that I will go apprentice with a shoe repairman for 6 months for free if they will let me stitch their soles.
Mm. But and it says, do you ever take back any of yours for repairs, except boots
I
that
can't,
you've
yes,
made?
I do repair my own. And someone asked about hand stitching soles. I've only done that once. It was fun because it's just like inseaming. It's the same stitch, only smaller. But at the same time, there are separate techniques, and I was really bad at it. And I haven't tried it again. But someday I need to, because I like stitching. I like just sitting quietly and stitching. And hand
Maybe that's
stitching
gonna
fulfills
be
that.
maybe that's gonna be like your pair that you're gonna spend time on one day. So you can do it slowly without any rush, maybe.
Yes. Well, it's so easy to be lazy when you have a curve needle right there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does it so much faster. Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Thank you so, so much. I think I'm gonna let you
Thank you.
go.
Okay.
I'm learning so much just from these little conversations that we're having. And it's moment in time in history that, you know, we're all kind of not stuck at the same, but experiencing something that's out of our hands. And I wanted to, you know, acknowledge that and also know how you
It's a
are. So
it's a fantastic idea. I appreciate you putting these together and connecting us all. Thank you so much.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I hope to see you sometime next, in the next shoemaking forum in person.
Sounds good. Thank you. Have a
Sounds
great
good.
day.
Thank you. You too.
Goodbye.
Bye.